Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Quantum Alignment Show. My name is Betsy Batista. I am a Level 3 Certified Human Design Specialist, and I'm going to be talking with you today about the divine purpose of struggle. And this is a subject that's really close to my heart personally, and something that I've lived through. And essentially, when I was 28, I was diagnosed with cancer when my first daughter was only 4 months old. And I really learned through going through that experience and a lot of the integration and healing I've done since then about how struggle really does have a divine purpose. And so I wanted to talk about that today in the context of the Human Design Chart. And I'm hoping that this topic will be something that can support you as you kind of navigate the changes of your own life. So I am going to share my screen so that you can see my presentation today. Okay. So as I said, we'll be talking today about the purpose of struggle in the Human Design Chart. And ultimately, what I would like you to walk away with today is the understanding that struggle does not have to equal suffering. Struggle is really the catalyst for our growth and transformation in life, and there is a way to navigate through struggle with more grace and ease. So I'd like to start by talking about a few of maybe the common metaphors that we've all heard of struggle, right? So the first, maybe most common that I think all of us know about is the concept of metamorphosis, right? The caterpillar goes into its cocoon and comes out a butterfly, right? Well, I don't know about you, but I actually learned only this year that actually in the process of metamorphosis, a caterpillar literally turns into a pile of goo inside the cocoon and then completely rebuilds itself into a butterfly. And I was just awestruck about this, right? Because I think there's this idea, right, that a caterpillar just goes in and it changes into this beautiful butterfly and then it emerges, right? No, the caterpillar liquefies. I mean, can you imagine the amount of struggle it takes to literally unbecome what you were in order to rebuild yourself into this beautiful new being, right? So just the process of metamorphosis itself is a journey through struggle into building something new. And then I know many people might know this as well, but you actually are not supposed to help a butterfly come out of the cocoon, because actually in the process of struggling against the cocoon itself to emerge, the butterfly builds up the strength that it needs in its wings to be able to fly. If you kind of tear open the cocoon or try to help the butterfly come out, it actually will not be able to fly and it'll die. So that struggle really is necessary to emerge into the newest and highest form of who we are. And we see that through the metamorphosis of the caterpillar into the butterfly. Having your life turned upside down, I don't know how much this is a metaphor as much as a real world lived experience for a lot of people. This certainly was my experience with the cancer diagnosis. But you know, of a life-threatening illness, a death of a close family member, losing your job, all of these things that really flip your life upside down, and they kind of put everything into perspective about what's really meaningful, right? You also hear those stories about mothers who have a child that gets trapped under a car or something, and suddenly they develop this like Herculean strength and they can manage to lift the car off their child to save their life, right? So in these big moments where everything is just turned upside down, we are kind of forced to step into this larger, grander expression of ourselves in order to rise to the occasion, so to speak. And then my personal favorite metaphor for struggle, childbirth. I have done it twice. I don't know if anyone on the call today has given birth or seen someone give birth or maybe just know someone who gives birth, but it is a struggle. The struggle is real in childbirth, as you can see over here on this side. And then look what you get, right? So all of this struggle, ultimately, the point is that there is a divine purpose for all of it, right? So I'd like to start by maybe encouraging you to start thinking about even just some new ways to think about struggle, to think about it as a challenge, as a mutative force, an initiation into the next stage of your evolution, a nudge to change, right? I know in human design that we say if you're not living according to strategy, or if you're not living in alignment with the truth of who you are, the universe will kind of give you that little nudge, right? Oh, you're off your path. You know, what do you need to do to get back on? So for me, when struggle really shows up in my life, sometimes that's something I take a look at, right? Okay, is there something I need to be shifting here? An opportunity to grow for sure, and the catalyst for transformation, as you saw in all three of the metaphors we just discussed. So struggle actually increases resilience. According to the American Psychological Association, this is their definition of resilience, that it's the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, or tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress, like in family or relationship problems, serious health problems, or the workplace, financial stressors. Ultimately, it's bouncing back from difficult experiences. And I love this part where it says, research has shown that resilience is ordinary, not extraordinary. Resilience is something we do every day, right? And being able to be resilient and navigate our way through struggle and come out the other side is really necessary to achieving success, to really fulfilling what we came here to do and being the best we can be. So in human design, struggle is a mutative energy. It's a driver, right? So we need the struggle in order to evolve and grow. And it's through the struggle that we learn the lessons we need to get to the next stage in our own evolution. We are not designed to suffer. There is no suffering in the chart. We are designed to struggle for the sake of evolution. So there is a higher purpose to the struggle, right? And you'll hear me say that a number of times throughout this presentation today. Also remember that in human design specifically, there's high expressions and low expressions of energy throughout the chart, right? So every center, every gate, every channel has a high or a low expression. And if we get stuck in those low expressions of the defined energies in our chart, or if places where we're open, we're kind of taking in and amplifying low expressions of energy that other people are running, it can be really, really painful. But it's always important to remember that we have the ability to shift from those low expressions of any energy into the high expression. And it's through awareness that we start to make that shift, right? So if we get stuck in those low expressions, it can feel a lot like struggle, right? The more we can keep our eyes high and looking for the high expressions of any of those energies, the more we're going to be able to move out of that. So in the human design chart, there actually is one very specific place where struggle is explicitly named, and that is in the channel of struggle, which runs between the spleen and the root center. So the channel of struggle, you know, each channel has two gates at either end, right? So in this channel, gate 28 is actually the gate of struggle. People who have this gate can sometimes get stuck in thoughts of, why is everything harder for me than everyone else? Or they might think they're doomed, right? Like it always feels like right when they're getting their footing, maybe something comes along and just the struggle reappears. They're always kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. And when you get stuck in this kind of doomed mindset, you can really get stuck in the struggle itself. And that's when it starts to feel like the suffering. Now, in any channel with the two gates at either end, there's ultimately a balance there, right? And the contracted or some of the energies that might feel harder, it ultimately leads into a way to manage that energy that has a higher purpose. And so in this channel, the gate 28 is balanced in the other half by the gate 38, which is the gate of knowing what's worth fighting for, right? So it's through this experience of struggle that we really learn what is worthy of our energy, what's worth fighting for, and what's really meaningful in life. And it's through this experience of struggle that we ultimately find the meaning of life itself. So I have the 2838. So I understand this energy a lot. And I think for me, the understanding of that gate 38 and the purpose of the struggle itself is really what has helped me to shift my whole perspective around the experience of struggle. Because I wouldn't be who I am today without that experience of cancer when I got it, right? That experience evolved me into a whole different way of being in the world. And I needed it. I needed the lessons that I learned from that experience to get to where I am now and to keep moving forward in my own evolution. So it taught me it was meaningful about being with my family, being with my kids. I left my traditional job and have been creating a life, more around the schedule that allows me to be a mother and do more of the things that are on my heart and my true calling to do. So it has the ability to support us in creating a life of greater meaning. If you have this gate of struggle or the channel of struggle combined with any other of some of the trickier energies in the chart, sometimes that can actually give you an indication of how you might experience your struggle, right? So gate 51, for example, is the gate of shock. I also have this gate. So when you have that, you might experience struggle with some fairly shocking experiences, like getting cancer when you have a 4-month-old baby at home. The gate 10 is the gate of the love of the self, but in its lower expression, it can struggle with victim consciousness and blaming, right? So the struggle could exist there if you have the 2830 and the gate 10. The gate 47 is the gate of realization, which is also a gate that is very much tied to mindset. So if you have the 2838 on the gate 47, you might find that you really struggle with your mindset. And in its lowest expression, it can kind of feel like you've locked yourself into this kind of mental prison of your own making, like you were stuck in this negative mindset and you can't get out, right? The 3955 is the channel of emoting. It can experience some extreme high highs and low lows. So if you have the 2838 and you have the 3955, sometimes you might struggle with the highs and lows of your emotional wave. The 1762, which is not listed here, but can sometimes struggle with judgment or shutting down possibility. So you can look at some of the other energies you have in your human design chart, and it might give you an indication, again, if you have this channel or this gate of struggle, about maybe some of the places where you might end up struggling with those lower energies. And what that does is it actually helps you kind of be able to identify what those are and just be aware of them, so that if that shows up in your life, right, like, oh my God, I'm totally stuck in victim consciousness right now. I'm struggling with my gate 10, or, oh my gosh, my mindset, I can't get out of this negative mindset. Oh, that has to be my gate 47, right? So sometimes the awareness can really help you move through some of the places where you struggle, or at least know that it's not you, or there's a different way to go about it. So this is all great information, right? But what can you do about it, right? First and foremost, attention and intention are really key. So it all starts with how you look at it, right? Remembering that this struggle has a purpose. This experience is here to help you grow. I think that, sometimes when we feel like we're struggling just for no reason, or, these struggles keep coming and we can't get out of them, or why is this happening to me, right? It really increases that feeling of suffering and pain. And so the more that you can just keep your attention on remembering about the purpose and your intention of the growth and learning the lessons, it's going to help. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? So perspective is key. What you resist persists. So if you're resisting the struggle, and if you're really stuck in it, like, oh man, this sucks, I hate how this feels, it really is easy to get stuck in it. And then you can't move through that struggle into what you're meant to learn, because ultimately that's the point of the struggle, is you're supposed to be learning something. It's here to help you evolve and grow. So if you're willing to receive what shows up, sometimes that can help you move through it sooner. So I think some people struggle with this, right? Because we hear this a lot in New Age philosophy, right? Oh, just surrender, right? Just surrender to what's happening to you. And I think that this is a little bit tricky when it comes to struggle, because people don't want to, right? I mean, what you're experiencing doesn't feel great. You're in the midst of something that feels really hard, and you're like, I don't want this. So how can I open myself up to receive this? This is not what I asked for, right? Well, just because you're being open to receive or surrender to what's happening doesn't mean you're accepting it or saying this is even what you want. What it does mean is you're saying you're allowing it. You're allowing it as part of your journey. You're saying, okay, this is what's showing up for me right now. This is what is. There's something I meant to learn here. What is it? And when you stop fighting the situation itself, you actually open yourself up to being able to see what you're meant to learn and move through the experience faster. So when we try to control things or grip on too tight, we're trying to muscle through it or just make something change. A lot of times we end up making it worse. Those things that we used to play with as kids that were like those little squelchy things with the liquid inside, and you'd squeeze it and it would just pop out the other side, right? I kind of think of it like that. If you hold it gently, right? Or if you're not trying to grip onto it, it'll stay put, right? So I think of struggle a little bit like that. The less you try to grip it or resist it or fight it, the easier you're going to move through it. So I like to tell people to look at any experience with curiosity and to try to feel what it's really about, right? Like, what is this? What am I meant to learn in this situation? And then decide, following your strategy, whether it's something you want to keep going in the direction of or not, if you want to change course. See if you can find the adventure in the struggle. This is kind of a fun one if you're able to do it, to even just look at any struggle and say, what are you here to learn? What are the possibilities that could come out of this that you hadn't thought of before? Let it be exciting, right? You're growing into something new. The struggle shows up. It's like, okay, I'm evolving, right? Wherever this is taking me, it's going to take me to someplace better than I started. Influencing divine timing. Sometimes we want to rush through experiences like this, right? It doesn't feel good and we just want it to be done, right? We're like, can this be over now? But that's not really how, a lot of times these experiences come to us for a reason, right? The struggle is here because it's teaching us that we need to learn something. So it's that act of surrender and the knowing there's a purpose in it. And the way we can influence divine timing, however, is in some of the ways we've already started talking about, like looking at it as an adventure, opening yourself up to possibility, right? A lot of it is about the vibration that you're carrying. So the vibration you hold will determine what is attracted into your life. Gratitude is a huge way to influence divine timing. When you find meaning in your challenges and you know that they're actually coming to you for your highest good, then you can find gratitude for the struggle. You don't necessarily have to find gratitude. Sometimes it's hard when you're in it, right? Because you're in something hard and you think, well, I'm not grateful for this, right? I'm not grateful for this struggle. Sometimes if you're in something really, really hard, I recommend to people that you start finding gratitude around you in other places, right? Start finding gratitude for, like take my situation, for example. Maybe in the moment I wasn't grateful to have cancer, right? But in that moment, I could say, all right, you know what? I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for this day with my children. I'm grateful to be on this planet at this time. I'm grateful that the sun is shining. I'm grateful for this delicious meal I just ate. I'm grateful for that person giving me a smile, right? Find anything and everything, even if it's small, that you can latch onto, that you can be grateful for, because gratitude perpetuates gratitude. And the power of gratitude is that it literally rewires your brain. So the more you express gratitude, it actually changes the molecular structure of your brain. And it makes you healthier and happier. It's been shown to improve sleep, to reduce anxiety and depression, and gratitude perpetuates more gratitude. So the more that this is the whole thing about mindset, right? So the more that you keep thinking in a certain way, you're actually reprogramming new neural pathways in your brain. So the more you find gratitude in your life, the more you're actually programming your neural pathways with gratitude, and the easier it is to find more of it. So that's where I'm saying to start. If you can't find gratitude for the actual experience you're in right in this exact moment, the experience you're struggling with, try to start by finding gratitude for other things and then work up to the gratitude for the struggle itself. Because the more you find gratitude, even for little things, it makes it easier for you to find gratitude for the big things. You're just programming those neural pathways to make it easier for yourself. And gratitude itself is a regulator for divine timing. So when you find gratitude for your experience, no matter how challenging they are, what that does is it elevates your vibration, right? And the higher your vibration is, the more you actually call in the blessings from the lessons of your struggles, and it can speed up the learning process, right? You know the lessons are there. If you can find gratitude for them, the sooner they're going to find you. Gratitude is also an indicator of healing. So when you can find gratitude in an experience, no matter how hard it was, I often say that means that you've probably kind of gotten to the other side of it, right? You're not stuck in the negative emotions that surrounded that experience. You're kind of existing beyond the struggle of where you were in that moment. And this is the kind of healing that actually allows for forward movement and moving on, right? Because when we're stuck in the pain of it, and all we can see is how hard that was and how much it hurt, then we're still in the processing of it, right? And we aren't in what comes next yet. That's still with us in our present moment. I think that when you can find gratitude for something, it's a real sign that you're able to move on and just integrate it into your life experience. We actually see this in the human design chart in the gate 61, which is a gate where we ask a lot of questions of why, right? And what we're doing when we ask why is we're searching for meaning. And I think that with struggle in particular, people are often searching for the meaning in it, right? God, why is this happening to me? You know, this feels so hard. Why me? Why is this happening? And when we're able to use gratitude as a gateway to find that meaning, we're actually living out the highest expression of those questions of why. It's through the why that we do find the meaning. So there's nothing wrong with necessarily questioning it, but it's good to know that that answer is there, even if you don't see it in the moment, right? There is a why. There is a purpose behind what you're going through, even if you don't see it in this moment. Trust that the lesson and the meaning behind what you're experiencing is going to find you. Okay, so I kind of moved through all this a little bit quickly, so we'll definitely have time for questions. But I want to go back through the key takeaways that we kind of talked about in this presentation today. The first was knowing that struggle has a purpose. And I think that above all, if you walk away with nothing else, please remember this, because it really is just so easy to think that, you know, it's that age-old question of, you know, why do bad things happen to good people, or why is this happening to me, or what's the point, right? And there always is. And even the people that I've talked to who've lived through some really, really hard experiences, even if it takes a long time, when they look back on it years and years later, or however long it takes, they're pretty much always able to say, yeah, that experience got me here. I wouldn't have gotten to this part where I am with the things I know now and the wisdom that I've gleaned if I didn't go through that. And beyond everything else, what you have learned the lessons from in your struggle is also what you're here to teach other people, right? So you had to do it yourself. You were in the hole and you had to find a way to climb out. You had to find the exit, right? And now that you know the path, you get to show that path to other people who are struggling with the same thing. You get to be their guide. Second is that perspective is everything. So when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. As much as you can remember to look at it as an adventure, look at this as an exploration, really be curious, seek the lessons, instead of getting stuck as much as possible in, you know, the struggle itself. It's going to shift things for you. The third is being open to receive, finding a way to just accept where you are in this moment, take a deep breath, and just take the next right step, right? Follow your strategy, follow the alignment with your soul and your spirit, and just take the next right step, but don't fight the experience itself, because it's going to happen to you anyway, right? You're in the middle of it. And so you're going to be able to navigate your way out of it better if you are open to just receiving and accepting what's here in the moment and asking what's the next right thing to do. Finding the adventure, right? How can you make this an adventure? How can you make this an experience of exploration and really seeing how you can move and be and live bigger and greater than you ever thought you could? And gratitude, right? Gratitude is really the key. And like I said before, you know, if you can't find gratitude for the big parts or the things that you're struggling with in this moment, how can you find gratitude for the small things that are around you, or even the small wins? I think sometimes we don't acknowledge the accomplishments that we've already achieved because we're so focused on the things that are hard or not going right. And so I would really encourage you to even take a piece of paper and a pen and start making a list with things that you're struggling with and saying, okay, what have I actually accomplished right now? What are some of my wins, even if they're little, right? Like I know someone who was struggling with depression, and they would count it as a win when they would get out of bed in the morning. They're like, you know what? I got up and faced the world today. Win, right? I found something to be grateful for in the midst of a really hard time. Win, you know? Look at what you're already accomplishing because it's going to remind you that you already are on your path forward to where you're trying to go. And that is the presentation that I had for you today. So like I said, I talked through that quicker than I expected. I'm wondering if there are any questions that people have that I can answer for you. You can feel free to ask me something specific about, something you're struggling with in your life, or about struggle in human design, or if any of the things that I said today, any of the tools, weren't making sense, or you have questions about that, please let me know. And I'm just checking on Facebook here to see if there's any questions that are showing up there as well. So let's see. Yes, to the struggling with thinking in the mind. Yeah, I can definitely hear that. And I think that it's also important to remember that the head, when we get really stuck, especially with those mindset things, right? The head is not where we're meant to be making decisions, right? And I don't know about you, I have a pretty active imagination, right? So if I get stuck in something that's hard, I really have the ability to kind of just go way out into left field, right? And just imagine all the crazy things that could happen, or, and then of course none of it ever comes true. But I think that it was taught to me once, actually, that if you're stuck in your head, do something to get back in your body, right? To take yourself out of that space, whether it's going for a run or dancing, or even just getting yourself into a creative space, coloring, painting, singing, dancing, anything like that, to just shift the energy out of the head and back into the body, or into your creative space. Or, part of what's beautiful about the creative space is that different sides of the mind kind of run different energies, and so you're kind of switching over. You're kind of switching over into that other hemisphere of your brain, into the creative side, and it gets you out of all of those thoughts, or stinking thinking, as some people like to say. Scott says, but the body is dizzy. It's hard to walk and think. Exactly. It is hard to walk and think. So focus on walking and less on the thinking, right? Sometimes doing the physical thing helps take you out of the thinking part. So I found that helps for me personally as well. Yeah, let's see if there's any questions coming in on Facebook here. Oh, I'm seeing lots of people. Hi, everyone. Oh, Cindy's still here. She says she's trying to figure out how to unmute herself. I'm wondering if I can unmute you, Cindy. I don't think I can. Yeah, I had some comments here about gratitude and how that being really good advice. Yeah, I think gratitude is a really, really good exercise, just a good exercise. Someone gave me a really great tool once to start. I know that a lot of people do gratitude books, right? Like they'll write in it every morning things they're grateful for. Someone actually taught me once to create a book of gratitude and gifts. And I thought this was such a great exercise as well, where you take a notebook, and on the forward-facing side, you can write your gratitudes, right? And then you actually flip the book over, and you start writing in reverse on the back sides of pages, and you write like requests of the universe, some gifts that you'd like to ask for from the universe. Now, the trick is to do the gratitudes first. You need to look at your life, and you need to identify, again, even if it's really small things. Thank you that I woke up this morning. Thank you that I have even one person in my life that I love. Thank you for the sun shining. Thank you that I had a meal to eat today. Sometimes it's bigger things, right? Gratitude for your wins, gratitude for the things that are going right. And then once you've thought, I like to do minimum 5 to 10 gratitudes. You can do a real long list if you want. And then you flip that book over. And on the back sides of the pages, you write requests from the universe, because the gratitude for what you already have is what opens you up to the space to receive something more or something different, right? So on the back side, you can ask as specifically or generally as you want for some things you would like to ask the universe for, and ask for some gifts. And do it every day. And I've heard some really amazing stories about people, you know, manifesting some really cool, sometimes big things by doing this exercise, right? And it's always surprising. It's always surprising from where it comes. A lot of times it doesn't come in the way you think it's going to, but that gratitude itself is what unlocks the ability to receive. Because if we're always striving, if we're just looking at the struggle of what we don't have, right, instead of looking at the gift of what we already do, then that's where we get stuck, right? Oh, it looks like someone else named Betsy raised their hand. Do I have the ability to unmute you? Other Betsy? I don't know if I can. Let me see. Maybe Cindy can if she's watching. Otherwise, Betsy, let me know what your question is. I'm not sure I have the ability to unmute you myself here. Yeah, I'm going to see if Betsy can write me her question. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Can I define a red flag gate? Sure, Teresa. So red flag gates, I've heard them called that. Sometimes they're just energies in the chart that that can have a trickier low expression. So for example, gate 10 in the chart is the gate of the love of the self. In its low expression, it really has the ability to turn into a gate of blaming or victim consciousness. And sometimes it can be known as like the verbal gunslinger, right? And so sometimes when it's in its low expression, the gate 10 can be a very tricky energy. But in its high expression, it ultimately it's the gate of self-love when it really is embodying that high expression, and it is a model for all of us of what walking in self-love actually looks like. So that's a really good illustration of kind of the more dramatic high and low expressions to energies in the chart, and how, you know, we really do have the ability to navigate between the highs and the lows and to shift the energies. Trudy, it looks like you raised your hand as well. I really wish I had the ability to unmute you. Let me see. Doesn't look like I can. Trudy, are you able to type your question into the chat? And then I can read it. Well, I apologize, everyone. It looks like we're having technical difficulties, so I can't unmute everybody. But if you have a question and you're able to type it to me, I can read it for sure. So if you would like to do that. Yes, Teresa. Teresa said, thank you. So we need to be mindful of when we're walking the high versus the low road and pivot. Yes, I think that's an excellent way to say it. And I actually, on my Facebook page recently, I had this kind of epiphany about the high and the low expressions in the chart, where I think, you know, we talk about the high and the low and moving from the high to the low, and I realized that you can actually use the low expression as a way to kind of get to maybe what some of your gifts are. So, for example, you know, Teresa, if you notice, if you have the gate 10 and you notice that you're really getting stuck in victim consciousness or really blaming a lot of other people, right? And you look at that energy and you see what the high expression is, well, it's one of your gifts to be an embodiment of self-love, right? Because I think that sometimes when we get really stuck in that low expression, we make it an identifying factor about ourselves, right? Like, oh my God, I'm always the one, you know, everyone's always being mean to me, or I'm always everybody's victim, or I'm always, you know, blaming everyone else or whatever. And we take that on as part of our identity instead of recognizing that that's just the low expression of what can be a really beautiful energy. And so I think sometimes it's that awareness that the low expression does not define you, right? And as much as you have that awareness to try to aim high, as you say, and remember that you are that high expression too. And yes, Cindy, I think sometimes you do need to experience the low to be grateful for both. I think people have different perspectives on that. I will say for me, and I know for a lot of other people, that, you know, experiencing the harder things helps you find the gratitude for when things are really good, right? But I mean, I guess I have a dream that someday we'll be able to just live out all the high expressions of the chart without needing the struggle, but I don't think that's built into our model for evolution, right? Trudy asks, how does gate 61 affect this topic? So gate 61 is off of the head, and it's a gate where it's kind of a gate of doubt, but what it's always asking why, right? And when you ask why, what you're doing is you're really searching for the meaning of things, right? So, I mean, in its low expression, it can be doubtful and suspicious and really always just never feeling like it has the answers and just getting stuck in that. But the gift in the gate 61 is the ability to find that meaning, in the seeking to find. And again, if you're open to receiving the lessons that come from any of these experiences of struggle or the things that you're learning, it's through that finding of the meaning and the finding, it's like the other half of the 2838, the finding what's really worth fighting for, right? It's finding the meaning of life. So we see that in the gate 61 too, through the questioning and the asking of why and the seeking of meaning. I hope that makes sense. Any tips from the channel of struggle? Yeah, so I think for me, the biggest game changer was really remembering that the struggle has a purpose, right? Because I think that when we just feel like we're getting smacked over and over and over, right? Or things are harder for me than everyone else, or why is this happening to me, right? Or everyone else has it easier, right? We all just want it to be easy. And I think I've loved really having conversations with people. I mean, I'm in my 30s right now, and I have had some pretty big initiations up until this point already, so I feel like I already understand this to some extent, but I love talking to people who are closer to, you know, the final stage of their life, who've really been through a lot. And just the sense of, I don't know if you've noticed this, but the sense of deep peace that they have, because they have the gift of perspective, right? And I think that this is tied into divine timing too, right? We don't always know the divine purpose of what we're experiencing, right? And I don't know that we even necessarily know the full meaning of our lives or the full meaning of what we came here to do until we get to the end of it and we look back and we have a bird's eye view on everything, right? And we see that this point got us to this point, got us to that point, got us here, and we wouldn't have gotten to all the way over here without all those things, right? And so I think that while we're in the middle of the journey, right, when we're between the start and the end of the game of life, right, if we're looking at it like let's look at like Chutes and Ladders, right? I have a 5-year-old, and I think sometimes life feels a lot like Chutes and Ladders, right? Sometimes you get the big ladder all the way to the top, and then, you know, right after that, you get the big chute all the way back down, right? But I think when we're in the middle of the game, it's easy to kind of forget that that perspective exists, right? And to remember that whatever this is we're going through in this moment is getting us somewhere. There's a point. And so for me, I think with the channel of struggle, having it in my own chart defined, that's been a huge thing for me, is remembering like, okay, this feels really hard right now. And whatever is coming down the line is got to be really great, right? For everything that I'm going through right now, there's got to be a divine purpose here. And then again, a lot of it is about attitude. About attitude and an attitude of gratitude, of seeing what you can find gratitude for in the moment and just being really present to where this is asking you to go in the next right moment, so that you can walk the path with as much grace and ease as possible. And again, those aspects of gratitude and being open to just accept what is are really regulators of divine timing. So whatever it is that is being divinely brought to you to experience and learn and evolve and grow through this struggle, you know, you can't, one of my favorite songs recently is You Can't Rush Your Healing by Trevor Hall. You should go listen to that if you haven't heard the song. So you can't always rush it, but you certainly, by accepting and moving more towards it and finding gratitude for the experience, you can sometimes influence that divine timing of your experience. How was I able to know the gate so well? That's a good question. I've been, Siobhan asked how I've been able to learn the gate so well. I think that everybody learns in different ways. I have friends who have photographic memories and they study something one time and remember it, right? There are people who need a lot of repetition, no matter what they're learning. I think for me, what has helped me learn the most is doing readings and watching how the energies of the different gates really play out in everyday life. And the more you encounter the different energies in different people's charts, at least for me, it's helped that information integrate better into my knowledge and understanding of human design. And I'm still learning every day. I'm still studying. So I hope that helps, Siobhan. I missed the beginning. Which gate is the gate of struggle? Gate 28 is the gate of struggle, and it is part of the channel of struggle, which is the 2838. And I mentioned this at the beginning. But again, I think I went through the presentation a little quickly. So the gate 28 is the gate of struggle, and on the other half of that channel is the gate 38, which is all about knowing what is worth fighting for. So ultimately, you find the kind of divine purpose of the struggle of the 28 in the gate 38, which is knowing what's worth investing your energy in, knowing what the meaning is and the purpose of that struggle, and being able to support others in knowing what is worth their energy and what is worth fighting for in life. I hope that helps, Libby. Oh, Siobhan, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that was how you pronounced your name. I'm glad to know that now. What gates am I talking about? I talked about a number of gates in my presentation, but the channel of struggle, which is kind of the most explicit place that you see struggle in the human design chart, is the channel 2838. And that is on the left-hand side of the chart at the bottom between the spleen center and the root center. And it is part of the knowing circuit. So it is a mutative energy. It is an individual energy, and it's a mutative energy. So it's all about evolution and what is needed through the struggle to help us grow. Yes, Teresa, I agree. The universe is very consistent in bringing us the experiences that we need to be aware of and learn from. I agree. I agree with that very much. What if you have the 28 but not the 38? What are the implications of that? So remember that we all have the whole chart, right? So just because you have something defined or undefined does not mean that you don't walk with that energy. It just means that your pattern of working with that energy is going to be less consistent than it would be if you have the channel or the gate defined. So what that means if you have the gate 28 defined is that you'll have a much more consistent way that you might experience struggle in your life. Maybe some patterns that you see with that, or even ways that you might work with it. And again, if you look at some of the other energies that you have defined in your chart, you might be able to identify some of the other energies that you might struggle with regularly. When you have the 38 undefined, it just means there are more of a variety of ways that you can experience that lesson of knowing what's worth fighting for. You're picking up some of that knowledge and information from others who have that gate defined. And also remember that if you have the gate 28 but not the 38, anytime we have what's called a hanging gate, which is one gate defined and the other gate, the other half of the channel undefined, we're going to be usually drawn to the people who have the other half of that channel, right? Because human design is a system of electromagnetics and we want to complete the channels that we only have one half of. So you're probably attracting people all the time who do have the gate 38 defined and who have learned through their own experience what's worth fighting for in their own lives. And so, you know, you're attracting those people all the time and picking up on their energy of what's worth fighting for, and you're amplifying it. So you do have the 38 as well, even if it's not defined, you just experience it a little differently. So I hope that helps, Barbara. How can we tell what gates we are? Do you have a link where we can access details of our own chart? Yes, absolutely. If you don't have your chart and you're interested to know which, if any, of these energies you might have defined or undefined in your chart, you can go to freehumandesignchart.com and you can enter your birth information there and it will pull up your human design chart for you, and you can save it to your computer, and you can see what energies you carry in your own personal human design chart. So you'll need to run that chart, you'll need your birth date, your birth time, and your birthplace to figure that out. And if you're on Facebook, Cindy just posted the link to that freehumandesignchart.com. So Lois says she has the 28 and the 10. Yeah, I'm so glad this resonates. Yeah, it's really cool to see how some of these energies work together. And I think, like I was saying, sometimes just having the awareness, right, of how we work with some of the energies that we carry allows us to, accept it, right? Because there's nothing wrong with any of this. And I think that was another thing that I've talked about with others who carry either the 28, 38, the channel or the gate of struggle in the 28, or any of these other, you know, some trickier energies that we have in the chart, right, is it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, or even that it's bad to have these energies in your chart. Like I was saying, there's a really higher divine purpose to every part of the chart. Suffering does not live here, and struggle has a purpose, right? So I think sometimes just the awareness of what energies we have, finding the acceptance for those, understanding what the higher expression and the purpose is of those energies is really one of the greatest gifts that I found with human design, and then I've watched human design give to other people as well, is understanding yourself, understanding how you work with energy, how that energy, I think understanding how that energy can show up in its low expression so that you can be aware of it, because awareness is what helps us to shift. And then, you know, really understanding the gifts that come from all those energies as well, because there's a gift in all of it if you know where to look. Yeah. All right. Can I answer any other questions for anybody? Yes, there will be a replay. We post the replay of the quantum alignment shows on Saturdays. You can actually probably sooner watch the replay of this on the Facebook page. Facebook.com/humandesignforeveryone is the page, and you can watch the replay there, or we'll be posting it on our blog, on our website, and also on the YouTube channel. And if you're on the Quantum Alignment System email list, you will get an email tomorrow letting you know the link where you can watch that replay. Oh, I'm getting more questions coming in. Where would I find a spouse or couples chart analysis? Sure, Paige. So you can find a connection chart. Usually you will need a specialist who is trained to do relationship readings, and they can run that chart for you. So if you go to the Quantum Alignment System website and go on the Human Design tab and look to where you can find a human design specialist, a number of the featured specialists there are trained to do relationship readings, and so you could reach out to them. Usually getting those connection charts is a more advanced service. I know that that's not offered through the free site, so a lot of times you need to find someone who will do readings, relationship readings, who can run that kind of chart for you. I'm not doing those yet. I'm actually in the middle of completing my training to offer relationship readings, so in the very near future, I would be able to do that for you. Defined in your personality or defined in your design? What is the difference? Libby, that's a good question. So the red numbers on your chart, which are sometimes called unconscious, are connected to your life purpose. And the numbers in the black column on your chart are sometimes called conscious, and those are connected to your soul purpose in this life. Now, I was taught that at a certain point, particularly when you reach maybe about age 40, when you reach, that first big life cycle, the Uranus opposition, and you're kind of switching from the kind of youthful themes of your chart into the more mature themes of your chart, you'll really feel both of those energies pretty equally in terms of awareness. But sometimes it's said that the energies that are defined in red on your chart are energies that might be operating just slightly more unconsciously, at least for the first half of your life as you're experimenting and exploring. And then you just become more aware of them over time, as opposed to in the more conscious column, they might be patterns of energy that you're more aware of. And some people are really aware of both. So Jamie says, I'm a reflector with gate 28, both conscious and unconscious, and I feel like I struggle with the same things all the time, and I struggle hard. I'm wondering if I'm attracting other gates that close channels for me that might be keeping me in the struggle pattern. That makes sense. So first of all, Jamie, as a reflector, you are a mirror for everything, right? You're taking in energy from around you constantly and you're amplifying it because you have all your centers open. So I can understand how, having the gate 28 defined and having maybe consistent patterns of struggle and then taking in all that energy and amplifying it from around you could feel like some really intense struggle. And again, yeah, you are, as you have a lot of hanging gates, right? Because you don't have any complete channels as a reflector, which would have defined some of the centers in your chart. With all those hanging gates, you are attracting people into your life all the time that are going to complete those channels. And you're going to be very impacted as well by the transits of, what gates and energies we are transiting through at any moment. And how those light up different parts of your chart as well. So yeah, I can understand how that struggle would probably feel really intense for you. I think that as a reflector, this is definitely an important thing, but being around in the right place and with right people is really, really important for you, and having, consistent energies around you as well. So I would say that, seeing if you can find people who really call out the best in you and an environment that feels aligned and right, where maybe the struggle feels less for you would be really great. And then also, seeing if you, as much as you can, to find ways to dispel and to release some of that energy you're picking up all the time, right? Especially the energies that might feel like more of a struggle. And without looking at your specific chart and seeing what other energies you have to find, it's a little hard for me to speak specifically with recommendations, but I hope that at least that's a little bit helpful. And if we have any other reflectors who are listening, who, especially if you happen to have the gate 28 defined, and you have any advice for Jamie, please feel free to put it in the comments. Jamie, I don't know if you want to tell me what planet you have the gate 28 in, because that will also influence how you experience that energy. Do I do quantum alignment readings? Yeah, I do human design readings. I do. And it really is a joy for me to do readings for people to help them kind of navigate the transformations in their life in places where they may struggle. Again, this is something I've experienced a great deal in my own life. And so I've found human design for me personally to be a really amazing tool to help me navigate my energies and how I work in the world, and help me to see some of the areas where I may where I may be able to learn from my struggles and to aim high, as we've been talking about, right? So yeah, if you're struggling with something and you'd like a human design reading, it would be my absolute honor to work with you. You can book a reading with me either through my website, which is betsybatista.com. And there is a schedule button right there at the very top. If you click that, you can book with me through there. Or you can go to the Quantum Alignment System website under the listings of specialists. I'm there, and you can book with me through there as well. So that's two different places you can find me to book a reading. And yeah, as I said, it really is, I love helping people navigate their way through life changes and helping people see how they can use their energies in their highest expression, places to be aware of, and how to navigate that as gracefully as possible. Okay. The 28 in Saturn. Yeah, that is, that's going to be a teacher for you, Paige. Saturn is our great teacher, right? If you happen to be at the time of a Saturn return between like 28 and 32, you're probably going to feel that energy of the gate 28 and the energy of struggle pretty strong. But it's with a really high purpose, because the lessons we learn from Saturn ultimately help us unlock our blessings. And they help us understand what we're here to teach. So yeah, as a generator, can you offer any tips on getting a better response in the group dynamic? I tend to be the one that gets hated on, and I don't know how, except all these different energies are driving me insane. I totally hear that. I think I would really have to look at your chart, because I would love to see what energies you're working with in your design, and what might explain how you're feeling that way. This is Pixie or Anne-Marie. And so, yeah, if you're interested in the reading, I don't know if you prefer to go by Pixie or by Anne-Marie. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to do that with you. And I think if we can take a look at the energies in your chart, you know, I'd love to see what might be happening there for you. I have some suspicions in my mind based on what I know of human design, but I would want to take a look at your chart and just see what you're working with there. And I could help with that for sure. Let's see. Okay. All right, I've only got a few minutes left here, so I'll see if I can get to a couple extra questions. Let's see. Oh, Jamie answered. She has the 28 in her Uranus. Okay. Okay. Is the retrograde going to affect this gate for me? That's very possible. That's very possible, Jamie, that the retrograde would affect it. It's just going to affect how you experience that energy. From what I'm not an astrologer by training, but from what I understand, and if I'm saying this wrong, I hope any astrologers listening will jump in and correct me, please. But retrogrades are times when we are here to review the energy in that planet. And so it's very possible that maybe the retrograde in that planet is going to help you kind of review and reflect on how you work with that energy, and see if there's any lessons there that you can learn for how to work with it. So I hope that helps. Okay, I see that there have been a bunch more questions. I am, however, running out of time to answer them. So I can do my best to go back in the chat and see if I can respond to people if it feels like I didn't get to your question, and you want to ask it, you know, feel free. I'll go back and see if I can answer those in the chat. I hope that this was helpful and supportive for all of you. And I really want to just end by reminding you that no matter what it is you're going through, there is a divine purpose to all of it. You are here to do a divine purpose. And whatever it is you're struggling with in this moment is a teacher for you. And you are also probably here to teach others as you navigate the waters of navigating your own struggles. And when you come out the other side with the wisdom that you glean, it might play a part for you in what you're here to do. So I invite you to not identify with the struggle itself, but to remember that it's here as your teacher, to adopt that attitude of gratitude, to look at it as an adventure, to accept where you are, and to trust the divine plan and the divine unfolding in where you're going, and know that the lessons you learn from this are taking you somewhere important and somewhere right. So, and again, if you would like a reading, if you'd like me to take a look at some of the energies in your unique human design chart, help you interpret them in any way with something you're struggling with, there's some big changes you're navigating through, it would be my honor to do that. And we'll post again the 2 different places that you can reach me for that. So thank you so much for joining today. It was a real pleasure to talk with you about all of this. You had some great questions, and yeah, I'll see you on the other side.